You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Elliott scores! Oh, Stevens stepped up, nailed it. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
We are grateful for a large contingent from the media who have joined us today, and we will open the floor for some questions. We ask that you wait for the mic to come to you, and we also ask that so that Sheldon could get to know you a little better, give us your name and your workplace association. So we will start here. Amanda.
Hi, Sheldon. Amanda from the New Jersey Devils. Nice to meet you. I just wanted to start off because in the last couple weeks, maybe days, there's been so many parallels that people have drawn from Toronto to New Jersey and just a lot of similarities. But how much of this has really been about a fresh start, something new for you to take on when you look at what's ahead here?
Well, it's a great question. It's something that very much is top of mind for me. I think, right away I was able to quickly bring some closure to the situation in Toronto. It was important for me as, I released a video shortly thereafter to thank people and bring some closure to me to the situation because I didn't quite know what was going to be next and what was ahead. But I did know that I wanted to bring some closure to the situation in Toronto, knowing that I learned and grew a lot through that opportunity. But I was going to be excited for whatever was going to come next. And in terms of the parallels, I think the major parallel that I'm focused on is that this is a good team with really good players, great resources, and high expectations. I've never coached a game at any level with any team where I didn't expect to win every single time we put our gear on and went out and played. And that was really important to me, so that parallel is important. But this is a fresh start and a great opportunity ahead. It's completely unique and different from anything I've experienced previously. I don't think any one thing is ever the same. In fact, I don't think any one day is ever the same when you're in this job. That's what's exciting about it, is every day you come, it's a new opportunity to continue to get better and learn something. With this, with a fresh group of players and to be able to create new relationships with the incredible young talent that we have is very exciting, and I'm focused on looking forward.
When you think about what your coaching philosophy is and how you like to run a team, where did you really feel that started to really align with Tom Fitzgerald when you guys started having those discussions to, not only did Fitzy say that he knew that you were the guy that he wanted, but it had to be something that you knew that you wanted to be a part of too? Yeah,
well, the first thing is just the structure of the organization. I think was really set up and set up for success in terms of giving me the things that I needed, which is to say that you want the players to be taken care of. And I think from a sports science perspective, I think that the players are very well covered and taken care of here. It gives me a great resource to lean on to be able to maximize the potential of the players on a daily basis. Then also the analytics team in the way that it's set up to give me the information that I need to be able to help us make hockey decisions on a daily basis and live and in real time. So those resources are important to me. And then also, of course, the talent and the skill level of the group to be able to work with that and lean in on that, but also get to work at establishing the necessary competitiveness and physicality and structure that is required to have any level of success and sustainable success for an NHL team. I believe those things are all in place here, and from the initial communications I've had with players, I think they're very hungry and excited, not pleased with last season, and ready to get to work at putting together something sustainable here.
And then, Fitzy, for you, when you started having your discussions with Sheldon, whether it was on the phone or texting or in person, where was that moment for you where everything kind of solidified? You said that, yes, this was, once he was available, he jumped to the top of your list. But where did that moment happen for you in those discussions?
Probably on that 3-hour call. But prior to that, I was, doing my due diligence and calling people who knew Sheldon, just about his personality, what drives him. What are all the positive things these people saw in him as a coach, and it really got me excited. I look forward to talking to him. I hope he accepts my call to further this. But it was that 3 hour, I called it the hockey talk, where it was just hockey, and where I realized that we'd be fortunate enough to have him as our coach because, there are areas that we're tapping into now that he's very experienced in that can help us utilize those resources and really tap into and maximize our talent here and our players. So I just thought this is the perfect guy for us, and just kind of continue to go through that soft process, I call it, with him and his family, where it's just there's more information, take it in, absorb it, and let him come to us, and that's what happened, which was great.
And then finally, Sheldon, one of the things that Fitzy said at the end of the season for this team was taking a next step in terms of accountability. And I imagine that has to do not just with, coaches and coaching, but having a locker room keep each other accountable. What is that process like for a coach to help a locker room empower themselves to keep themselves accountable? And how do you see that kind of playing out with your philosophy?
Yeah, I think obviously that is integral in building a successful team, is to have, first of all, players that are accountable to themselves and for what their responsibilities are to the team, and then ultimately having the group hold one another accountable. I think really it's about having actions match ambitions. We set that right away as we know what the expectations are here, and what the potential is for the team to be to challenge for playoff position, to make the playoffs, and ultimately compete to win the Stanley Cup. Those are the expectations here, and that's why I've come here, because the group has that, and expectations only come when they're earned, and I think they have been earned here. And the team took a step back this season here, but has shown the potential that they have, and they're going to continue to grow and get better. The accountability piece for me, as I say, starts there, but you have to foster that as a coach, and you have to first make it clear what the ambitions are, and then make sure our actions are matching that on a daily basis. For me as a coach, it's to police that process and enforce it when the time comes and when necessary. But starting the relationships and having the clear communication and setting the expectations very early is important. And then it's just about making sure that we hold one another accountable as we go through, because myself as the coach, I expect the players to hold me accountable as well. I have a job to do, and I want their communication, their feedback. If I'm not holding up my end, or any member of our staff is not holding up our end, to give them what they need. But we'll work together towards making sure that our actions match our ambitions on a daily basis.
I hope you guys are enjoying today's bonus episode. Before we continue, I want to tell you guys about FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. If I had to make a suggestion, I am predicting championships throughout Dallas. I am picking the Dallas Stars to win the Stanley Cup and the Dallas Mavericks to win the NBA Finals. And that will be the third championship in the last few months for the state of Texas, because the Texas Rangers won the World Series. Please remember to gamble responsibly. All right, let's get back to today's bonus episode featuring Sheldon Keefe's media availability. Take it away once again.
Sheldon, Jim Cerny from Sportsnot. Welcome to New Jersey. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You were so gracious with your video that you posted after Toronto let you go. I was wondering if you can just go back to that moment and your emotions and your thoughts. And then part two was, you knew there were a lot of options. There were a lot of coaching availabilities this offseason. So I'm curious as to how quickly your mind, as you're kind of going through the possibilities, you said, oh, New Jersey. And then if so, why?
Yeah, so the first thing in terms of the video, as I mentioned earlier, was about bringing some closure to the situation. I had a pretty good sense that day, I believe it was a Thursday perhaps, but I had a pretty good sense that day I was going to wake up and be called in for a meeting, and knew what the result was going to be. I didn't sleep much that night. I was up around 3 a.m. and rolling around in bed, and knew I wanted to bring some closure to the situation, and had the idea of having a video like that. I just thought it's an easy way. I didn't want to spend much time going through any sort of media or anything like that, but I wanted to be able to share a message to the fans and to everyone that I've been a part of. I spent a lot of years in Toronto as the coach of the Marlies and the Leafs, and worked with some incredible people, and wanted to be able to control my message and get it out there. Had the idea of utilizing social media to do so. Had that spot picked out, which is not far from where we live, and it's my happy place to go down there and by the water and spend some time to clear my head. So I went directly from my meeting with Bratcher Living that morning to go down and shoot the video and get my message out. And then from there, I didn't quite know what was going to happen next, quite frankly. It's the first time I've been in a situation where I've been let go and unsure of what was going to come next. So didn't quite know what was to come. I went from shooting that video to taking my wife Jackie out to lunch, her and I, and it was during that lunch I already got a call from Bratcher Living letting me know that Tom had reached out and was wanting to talk. So there wasn't a whole lot of time to process things, but it was very clear that I had to make a decision on whether to engage in a process or take the time to recover and regroup from the situation in Toronto. And it didn't happen right away, quite frankly. It was something that I took time with, not a lot of time, clearly, but Tom was extremely patient, which I'm incredibly grateful for, because he gave me time to process things, to have conversations with my family. And with each day that passed and with each conversation that I had, it just felt right with New Jersey for lots of reasons. At the top of the list is, as I came out here, my wife and I, to New Jersey to learn more about the organization, to spend time with David, and to hear him speak with such passion for Devils hockey, for sports in general, and that was incredibly exciting to know that you would have the support and the resources necessary, and then also just how aligned Tom and I were. With each conversation, with each day, became more and more exciting and more real to me, that I was going to want to jump right back into it and take on this responsibility that I will not take lightly for a second, but also the privilege to coach the New Jersey Devils and work with the incredible talent we have here.
And just a quick follow-up. Since last Tuesday, have you reached out to any of the players yet? Have you started to have those conversations? And I guess, where are you? Did you jump into the waters already, about putting your staff together?
Yeah, so I've reached out to just about every player at this point. I made connections with them, very surface level stuff at this point, but plan, of course, to expand on that here in the very near future, to have conversations with them and give them a greater sense of what I'm about, and try to see what I can glean from them in terms of where they're at individually and how they feel about the group and where we can go from here. And then very similar with the coaching staff. The plan is to spend time with each assistant coach and get a sense of where they're at and how they feel about the group and how we may be able to work together. And then, in the appropriate time, when I feel comfortable with it, we'll make some decisions and how we progress as a staff. And I'm excited for that. Like I said, there's a lot of work ahead, but that will be the priority for me, to spend the time with both the players and the coaches here in the very near future.
If I could just interrupt for a moment, one of those assistant coaches has joined us, 3-time Stanley Cup winner, member of our Ring of Honor, Sergei Brylin.
Sheldon, right over here. Ryan Nowozinski, NJ.com. Congratulations. And I'm just curious. I mean, what did you learn in Toronto, just from the playoff shortcomings, specifically this most recent one, and how do you plan on using that to I guess, learn and get over the hump now in your new job?
Well, I mean, what's very clear, I've known this long before I ever coached in the NHL, is that winning the playoffs is extremely difficult. It's very hard to do. So everything matters, every detail matters, and that's why I think it's so important to focus on what's right in front of you on a daily basis, and looking to master every day that you have. Capitalize on every day that you have, so that when the tough moments come, that you're confident that you can just go out and play and trust yourself and your ability to execute in those moments. In terms of Toronto itself, certainly there's lots of things that I've taken away from that. After 5 years and 6 playoff rounds, I'm a far better coach now than I was before I arrived in the NHL. But I'm coming here to New Jersey excited to take on a new opportunity here. There's young, hungry players that are here. There's guys here that, you look at the young, exciting players that in their first opportunity won their first round and pushed through and excelled in those moments, but ultimately didn't reach the goal. And I'm excited, to learn about them, learn from them, and then get to work and growing together as a group, so that ultimately we're ready for whatever competition might come, and no matter how high the stakes may be.
And for Tom, you talked about the gauntlet, obviously the interview process. Are you able to get into specifics of how many people that you interviewed for the job? And how much did ownership and players, were they involved at all in giving feedback or anything?
As far as communication with ownership, for sure, David and Josh knew exactly the list that we built, and it was extensive to start. Cut that down a little bit, but if I had to guess, 8 to 10. Pretty curious person. There were a lot of guys that I spoke to that I knew weren't ready for the job, but curiosity drove, put them in front of me, knowing that certain individuals that I did talk to will be NHL coaches at some point down the road here, and that's always interesting to me to see, I got a chance to talk to this young person, back in the day. Some experienced people, lots of experienced people. But again, then it became obvious. I think patience helped, waiting for the first round and see what shook out. What was important to me was, the timing of starting this process with other people. They were ahead of anybody who was going to come out of the first round that became an option, Sheldon. I wanted to give Sheldon every opportunity, as much as I gave everyone else the opportunity to go through the gauntlet, so I could have a clear picture of really who was going to be the best coach for this team. And that's where the patience came in, and Sheldon went through it. And, as we went through it, I recognized early that we'd be fortunate if he was our coach, and here we are.
Hi, Sheldon. James Nichols, New Jersey Hockey Now. Congratulations. Welcome to New Jersey. First question for you. You mentioned your video and your happy place, and in that video you mentioned potentially taking a break. How close were you actually to doing that? I know you had said this kind of came along quickly, and then you contemplated for a little while.
Yeah, I don't recall exactly saying I was going to take a break, other than saying I was going to take a break from media. But here we are. What I said is I didn't know what was going to come next, and that was real. I really didn't. I do know that my time with my family is extremely important to me. And yet, as I said, with each day that passed, it became clear to me, and it was really through the support of my wife, Jackie, who reminded me after a couple of days that you're a hockey coach and you should take this seriously. And her support, all through my career, from the time I made the decision to stop playing, to get involved in coaching. We moved out to a small town in Pembroke, Ontario, and I started my coaching journey, coaching 7 seasons at the junior A level. Not the most glamorous level, but it was an opportunity for me to learn. It was through her support in moving there, asking a girl from Scottsdale, Arizona, to move up to Pembroke, Ontario, and then off to Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, and then ultimately to Toronto, which has been incredible run for us there to grow our family. But ultimately, her support, really allowed me to spend the time in the process and have the conversations with Tom, not knowing where it was going to lead, because I was still very much, first of all, you lose in the playoffs. That in itself is difficult. Lose in a Game 7, it's even more difficult. And then not long after that, you've lost your job. So now there's a lot happening at once, and you're trying to process it all. And you're sitting there in that situation also where you have term left on your contract. So all these things are all factors in trying to process what was going to come next. But as I said, with each conversation that I had and with each day that passed, it became very clear that this was an incredible opportunity here in New Jersey that was going to be a fit for my family and I, and was going to be an opportunity in which, as I say, the expectations are high, and I'm drawn to that. I've never coached any team at any level, didn't expect to win every time they put their equipment on, and that's the case here, and that excites me right from day one. So here we are.
And, obviously you're going from one star-studded roster to another. How much of a factor was that in making your decision to come here, and how maybe different might this roster be than where you were previously?
Well, I think, as I say, the team's very good, which is why the expectations are high. And the team is good because the players are good, and there's incredible depth here. There's a great mix of youth and experience. There's skill at all positions, at forward and defense, that are very exciting to be able to get those groups connected on both sides of the puck, offensively and defensively, and to be able to capitalize on those skill sets and continue to grow them together. So lots of things are exciting there. With how quickly things have gone, I don't sit here and say I have all the answers and have all the information, frankly, but I'm very excited to get to work. What I do know is the talent is there. The hunger is there and the commitment is there. I can tell from the initial conversations that I've had, going back and forth with some of the players. It's been very clear that they're not happy with last season, and they're excited to look ahead and get to work. So all those things together, for me, made it very clear that that I was ready to get back into this, and this was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up.
And we've mentioned, the playoff shortcomings, and in that process, what have you learned from your previous experience about getting as much out of you can out of your roster, especially your top guys, and how do you maybe see yourself overcoming that obstacle?
Yeah, listen, it's an obstacle for sure. As I said, I bring closure to the situation in Toronto. I'm excited for what's ahead. Winning in the NHL is extremely difficult. Winning in general is extremely difficult. I've at every level I've been at before the NHL, I've coached very deep into the playoffs and won championships and have an expectation to have a short summer every single year. So when that doesn't happen the way it has in Toronto, that drives me. But as I say, this is a fresh start for me. This is a different group and a different opportunity. Yet I know that the expectations are high. I drove in here this morning and see the statue of Marty Brodeur out front, and it's just a nice reminder that this is a place with high expectations, but also where winning is possible, and it's very exciting for me and for the players. I think every player that that I've communicated with here is very clear that there's an excitement about being in New Jersey, and that comes through when you're communicating with them, and I'm excited to learn more and build upon that.
And last one for me, Tom. In having these conversations with Sheldon, what convinced you that was something that was going to be able to happen? That he was going to overcome that first round exit obstacle.
Well, let's be clear. There's only one winner every year. It's hard. The NHL is a hard league, extremely hard to win in. A lot of things have to go right. At some points, there's a lot of random. When you get to overtime, you don't know how a puck's going to end up across that goal line and if you're going to be on the winning side of it. When I looked at Sheldon's career, to be quite honest, the playoffs didn't enter it. When you're in the playoff round 5 times, 6 times, and you lose a game 7 4 those times, and a game 5 once, and you get through to the second round, to me, it's, David touched on, the stats. Incredible. There's only one other coach who's gotten to 200 wins prior to faster than Sheldon. It was the person, his beliefs, the passion he has for the game of hockey, for his family. He's a family guy who happens to coach hockey. They resonate with me. I played a lot of years in the NHL and never won a Stanley Cup. Been to a Cup final once. I coached one round and I coached 1 year from February to June 12th, and I won a Cup. Right? I'm looking no different than the last time we went through this 4 years ago. Someone I can partner up with, someone that can challenge me and vice versa. Groupthink is not something we believe in here. And at the end of the day, using those resources and the collaboration to make proper decision on roster, personnel, lineup that night was important to me. And from the get-go, it was evident that Sheldon would be a great partner for me and push each other. Because at the end of the day, we have the same goals, and that's to bring a Stanley Cup back to New Jersey.
Hey, Sheldon. Good morning. Mike Morial, NHL.com. Welcome to New Jersey.
Hi, Mike.
So I guess my question here is, going back to your first coach as a player, John Tortorella, I'm curious what you learned from him and what impact he might have had now as a coach and how you evaluate players and how you coach players.
Yeah, well, thanks for the question. When I made the transition from playing to being a coach, made that decision to coach, I knew I had a passion for teaching young players. During a time, I had injured my knee, and during rehab, my season was over, and I ended up spending time in Pembroke at the junior A level and working with young players. It was very clear I was drawn to that. I was very much drawn to working with video in particular and spending time with players and trying to get an edge that way. So I was drawn to coaching, yet when I took on the role as head coach at that level, it was okay, now I'm going to be a coach. I don't know what I'm doing, though. So what are you going to do to create your foundation and your core values as a coach, and then you lean on your experiences as a player to do that initially. And my time spent with John Tortorella in the Tampa Bay organization really set the foundation for me as a coach, because I learned a tremendous amount from him that I apply to coaching, and it was through the experience of being a part of an organization that was trying to raise the standard when Torts came in and went through some very difficult times, both as the team and with some of the individuals, some of the best players that were young and were trying to grow and were challenged by Torts on a daily basis to raise their standard. And then ultimately, the team got to the point where it was too good for me to play on it anymore. But they won the Stanley Cup in 2004. And while I wasn't there, I was a part of that process of the team improving and seeing Torts do his work on a daily basis and how he challenged the group. It was not easy. It was not comfortable. But ultimately, got to win. And that process really showed me what's required in terms of creating at times uncomfortable situations, but showing love and commitment to your players at the same time, knowing that you're in it for their best interests and you're in it for ultimately the best interests of the team. Seeing Torts at work, they really set that up for me. And when I started coaching the NHL, I had an opportunity to thank him for that, which was a great opportunity for me. He's been incredibly gracious with his time. Since I've been in the NHL, he may not be as gracious anymore now that I'm in the division, but that really is where it started for me.
Sheldon, welcome. Bruce Beck, NBC4 New York. What's your overall vision for this franchise?
Well, the vision is to win the Stanley Cup. That's very clear. However, it's also very clear to me that in order to do so, you have to maximize every single day. Today is about being welcome to New Jersey and communicating and talking with you And tomorrow is about starting the journey of, communicating with the assistant coaches and with the players more directly. And then ultimately getting ready for a training camp and focusing on that. You cannot win the Stanley Cup until you make the playoffs. You have to make the playoffs, and you cannot win the Stanley Cup until you win the first round, and so on. And you can't do any of that until you get to win each day. So that's really what my focus on is. It's establishing a process that we'll adhere to on a daily basis, and ultimately seek sustained high performance that will lead us to have opportunities to compete for the Stanley Cup.
Bill Spalding, MSG Networks. Sheldon, we've talked already a bit about accountability, but because it was such a big word around here over the last month, I'm wondering if you could expand a bit on your philosophy of accountability and also how your communications philosophy maybe works hand in hand with that.
Well, my philosophy of accountability is giving the players and the team what they need in the moment. I don't think you can have one philosophy, hey, this is how I do it. And that's it. I think you have to be able to read and adapt to the situation, to each player, each personality, and with where the team is at. Sometimes you're doing it on a one-on-one basis in your office. Sometimes you're doing it right out in front of the team because the team needs to know it and see it and know that the expectations are higher and we're not meeting them. So I think you've got to be flexible in everything you do as a coach. You've got your core values and your non-negotiables, and that's what we'll work through. I'll be committed to being as educated as I can about what this team has been through to get to this point, and then we'll chart a path to continue to grow and build from here. And then the standard will be high. We'll continue to raise the bar on a daily basis to get to the point where we have something sustainable here that ultimately runs itself, and the players are pushing and challenging one another. That's my goal, to grow leaders. We'll have leaders that are obvious right from day one, and then we'll have emerging leaders that will develop underneath them that will allow us to continue to grow, day by day and year by year.
And Tom, you mentioned talking to, say, 8 to 10 people. How valuable was it to get so many different outside perspectives about this team and the way other people from the outside see this team? And what did you take from that as you look ahead toward this offseason?
Very valuable. Information's knowledge. What people think. You could have biases internally of where you think you are, but the reality is there's steps and processes that you want to go through to get to where we need to go. Creating those standards and expectations are as plain as our face right now. It's just very matter of fact. Like I said, I felt, Bill, when Sheldon, when we started communicating that, he was the right person for this job.
Sheldon, welcome to New Jersey. Josh Reinitz, Hockey Writers.
Josh.
Excuse me. Can you, for people who haven't watched your teams play as much, can you just talk about the characteristics on the ice of a Sheldon Keefe team, what people can expect to see from your players, style of play, those kinds of things?
Sure. I think what you would expect from us is to play a style that is fast and competitive, that prioritizes pressure on the puck in all zones, but also leans in on the skill and makes plays. And in order to do that, you have to have the proper tools to do so. And I believe that we have those here. So I'm very excited to build out a plan that can maximize the strengths of our team, but also have a group that can develop cohesion and connectivity within the group on both sides of the puck that really shines through in all zones. So, and then ultimately building a team that is very good, not just in the skilled parts of the games, not just in the defensive parts of the games, but the game within the game. And I think there's, in our sport, as you see this time of year, you're turning on your TV, watching the playoffs, there's a lot that goes on that you have to be very comfortable in, and the group has to really stick together. And those are areas that I think we'll be focusing on a lot. And as we build the plan for training camp and into the regular season, we'll be working towards that end from the start.
Thanks. And Tom, in terms of what Bill was saying about all the different people you spoke to, was there anything that surprised you about how your team was perceived, or anything you learned about the team that you can share?
No. I've been very open about this, certain areas we want to grow in and add to the team. We're a very, very skilled team, I think we've got young players that will emerge into stars here shortly, but I don't, again, the information I got, it was knowledge and power that a lot of us see the game the same way. So a lot of it is, hey, we think your team's A or B, but you are this, and that. Part of my responsibility is actually my goal was, I know what our strengths are, and I'm not looking for somebody. I wasn't looking for somebody to abandon what our strengths are, but to help us build on some of the things that we need to improve on. And there are a number of those things. Our players they're very coachable. They want to be their best. They want this team to go as far as possible, but they know that there are steps, whether it's, keeping each other accountable, whether it's, being able to self-assess your own game and be truthful with it at times. I think that's important for growth. But the information that I was getting from other people, it all resonated with me. It's exactly where, my group is at, where we feel we need to get to. Details, habits, those aren't just things you turn on and off. Those are things that are instinctful, and it starts from the first day of training camp, and it's hammered in you over and over and over again. And when you get to this time of the year, the teams with those great details and habits and stick to them and believe in them are the teams that usually move on and win.
Time for just a couple more.
Hey, Sheldon. It's Greg from ESPN. How are you?
Greg. Good.
You had Austin, Mitch, Willie as your core in Toronto. You come here with the Hughes boys and Bratt and Heischer. I was wondering if you've learned any sort of tricks of the trade managing a young star core in Toronto that you would apply in New Jersey.
The biggest thing that I've learned, and I learned this very quickly coming up from the AHL, I can vividly recall a meeting I had with Austin Matthews after a couple weeks on that job, and it was very evident to me that these are hockey players. They're just like every player you've coached at every other level. These are guys that want to be guided. They want information. They want to know that you can make them better and how you're going to do that. They want to know that their feedback is valued, but they want to be pushed. They want to be challenged. And they want to be great. And that's really all you're looking for as a coach, is to have that. The bigger thing, though, is to develop those players that you mentioned, but also develop our team concept, develop value throughout the lineup, throughout the roster, having continuity that we can grow together as a group, I think is extremely important, and that's what I'm excited to do.
Hi, Sheldon. Steve Politi from NJ.com and the Star Ledger. You saw this team up close early last season when it was at its best, I think, in recent vintage. You also saw it last season when it didn't reach that level. I'm curious, when you were diagnosing this team from afar, what did you see was the issue, and how do you change that?
Well, I don't think there's a lot of value for me in going in. And dwelling on anything in the past. First of all, we didn't see New Jersey this year towards, there was a bit of an anomaly in the schedule. We played them 3 times in a 2-week span in March, but didn't see them all season. So, we didn't get much of a feel there, but you did reference the season prior to that, and some of those things really stand out to me in terms of what I believe this team is capable of. I can remember playing against that team and frankly feeling overwhelmed, and we were a very good team as well in Toronto, and we played in here. I think at a time there was an incredible streak going on, and the team was really clicking, and you could feel the skill, but also the pressure, how much they were in control of the game. Those are all things that I value as a coach, and I really saw that and felt that firsthand. So that's exciting. You know what it's capable of. And then obviously when the season doesn't go their way this year, and there's a step backwards, you wonder why. But what I'm most concerned with as I took on this position, now you start communicating with players, is how do they feel about it? And without even bringing it up, it was communicated to me that they weren't happy with the results and how things went last season. They're very motivated to get to work, and that's what we're going to do.
One more for me. Sorry, Tom. Obviously you have a lot of decisions to make this summer. How much are you going to collaborate with Sheldon? How much influence is he going to have on some of the roster decisions that you're going to make?
Well, his thoughts are very important to me, as are my team, and what we really want to do and what's first. This was a priority, is getting the coach, and we've set our other priorities, checklists that we need to accomplish, and building a team is a puzzle to make sure we find the right pieces to start, so then all the other pieces can fall into place. So again, very curious on where Sheldon thinks of our players. We haven't really dove into all of our players and really what the needs are, but that's coming.